Welcome to Equine Blooming. My name is Katie, and I'm passionate about mental health, taking care of ourselves, and taking care of our animals in a way that feels good for everyone. Together, we'll discuss animal guardianship and training, hear from experts in the industry, and discover more about one another. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. It's Katie with the Equine Blooming podcast, here with another episode. This week, I had the pleasure of speaking with Cara from the popular Instagram account WhoIsCara. In this episode, we cover grief, mourning the loss of a beloved friend, all things horsemanship, and plans for the future. Cara is super fun to talk to, and we had a really good time recording this episode. I really appreciate her being so vulnerable and open, as I know this is an extremely difficult topic. I do just want to give a quick content warning, as we will cover the death of a pet. Well, a horse, a companion. So if that's something that you're sensitive to, maybe go find a different episode to listen to, or come back next week for a different topic. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope we all have a beautiful week. So if you don't mind just giving like a little overview for people who might not be familiar, of you and Rusty and your relationship and kind of what has brought you to where you are in life now, that would be super great.
I don't know, shall I introduce myself? You can cut that out later.
If you want to, go for it, because you'll do a better job than I will. So yeah, go for it.
So my name is Cara. People may know me on Instagram under WhoIsCara. A lot of people don't notice that is actually a word you can say, or a handle you can say. A lot of people are like, what is this? What does it mean? I'm 32 years old and I live in Berlin, Germany. And I had a pony. Like, we had to put him down this March, and he was a Norwegian fjord horse that reached the age of 38 years. And Rusty was with me since I was a little kid. He was that kind of horse every kid, every little princess girl, whatever, wishes for in life. And I love to think of him as that horse that was loved by a little girl.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a beautiful picture of the two of you on the wall behind you. That's gorgeous. What a special moment to have captured like that.
Thank you.
For anyone that might be listening, it's a picture of Rusty and Cara in a field, and he's got his leg wrapped around her, and she's kind of hugging his muzzle, and it's very sweet. Yeah, that's beautiful. How old were you when you got Rusty?
That is an amazing question. I think I was like 4 or something.
Wow, you were really little.
I was teeny tiny.
That's wild. So was it like one of those, oh, they'll grow up together type of ideas? Like, was that why you guys got him?
Like, the way my mom tells the story is, ever since I was a baby, I was like, ponies everywhere. There were horses. I was that screaming kid in my mom's arm that just screamed for the ponies, and you had to put me like where the ponies were, and then I would calm down. And my parents raised me in the countryside, so it was something that just comes when you live in the countryside. At that time, I don't know how it is today, that my parents got me a pony because they were like, oh yeah, we live in the countryside, there's the space, it's not that expensive, get that kid a pony.
If only we could all be so lucky. That's great. Good for them.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying maybe it was different back in those days when everything was a little bit cheaper, and
for sure,
I don't know how situations were back then. But yeah, my parents got me this pony, and they found him through a newspaper advertisement, actually. It was just this pony for sale ad, and they didn't even know the breed. So I had horse breeds books at home, and my mom just looked it up and was like, oh, that's a fjord horse. Because fjords are not really popular, or were not really popular here where I live. So my parents didn't know anything about fjord horses, but however, they got me a fjord, not knowing what they were getting into. Yeah, and I basically grew up, not just basically, I grew up with Rusty. He was, oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I know. It's a lot. Take your time.
He was my best friend. I got bullied in school, and I don't know, he was the friend I would go to after school, and then I would just sit with him and talk to him and tell him how mean everybody was to me. And I remember I remember two hacks actually when I was like 10 or something. I remember, I don't even know why I remember it for any specific reason, but I remember how I sat on his back and I was just telling him how this guy was mean to me and this was mean to me and they called me names, and I don't know. I would just tell him all these stories, and also like first heartbreaks, first, I don't know, problems at home. He was always my go-to.
Mm-hmm.
Even when my parents got a divorce when I was 18, and when they told me, I would just get my bike and drive to my horse and tell him about it. Yeah.
That's beautiful. It's like the image I have in my mind is like something from a movie of like the little girl crying and pedaling her bike down this gravel road, and she like buries her head in her horse's mane, and you actually lived that. So that's what a beautiful gift that he gave you to always be there for you. And what a beautiful gift you gave him. I mean, not many horses are in one home for 99% of his life he was with you. How cool is that? That's awesome.
Yeah, that's it. That's something I thought about too when he passed, and what made things a little more. I'm sorry, there's a thunder. I have to
Oh,
close
no
the window.
worries.
There's thunder. It's thundering outside my window. So, um, yeah, what I wanted to say is that that was something I thought about too when he passed, that he actually had a very, very good life, and he was always loved. He always had everything he needed.
Mhm.
Um, Even though there were times that were really, really hard, because when I was in college, I worked 3 jobs next to college in order to be able to afford him.
Mhm.
Um, and there were tough times. Like sometimes I was really like, I gotta sell him, but luckily I didn't have to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big deal to be able to, especially when you're a student. That's a lot. I can appreciate what that feels like. I maybe foolishly, but I bought like my like legal first horse in my third year of university. So I had him like my last 2 years of university, and ooh, there were a lot of slim nights, but we made it work. Um, yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't, and I'm totally okay with however you like whatever you feel comfortable talking about, and I don't want to, like cause you any sort of super emotional distress. But I would love to hear kind of how it's been for you navigating, no worries, his like later years when you kind of knew that things were slowing down and maybe this was the end, and how it's been then since he passed for you, like emotionally and mentally.
Mm, You gotta see it, what you just asked me, you gotta see it as two questions actually.
Mhm.
Because Rusty died. Well, I never publicly said why Rusty died, but I think this is a good opportunity to say that. Um, Rusty died from seizure. So it was totally unexpected. Well, he didn't die from it, but I decided to
Yeah.
put him down, because if a horse can't lay down, can't stand on his 4 feet,
Yeah.
um, that's not a life. So I decided to put him down after 24 hours of medicating him. So just to make that fact clear. So he died rather unexpected.
Mm.
So a couple of years ago, for those people who don't know his story, a couple of years ago, Rusty lost an insane amount of weight. He looked super skinny. I think he was down to 200 kilo. Um, and we didn't really know what was going on. I had so many vet checks. I had his teeth checked. I spent so much money on vet exams, and we couldn't really figure out what was going on. But I always had the feeling he wanted to live, even though so many people told me, you got to put this horse down, this is animal abuse, blah, 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 blah. All the mean things people say on Instagram. And I never listened to those people. I just did what I thought would be good for my horse. And
Mm-hmm.
I never felt like he wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I actually didn't change anything except for nutrition and stuff. But I did not change my attitude towards how I worked with him. I just acted like everything was normal. We just do our regular stuff. We do, well, what I did was I stopped riding and changed to groundwork,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, because you don't want to ride a 200-kilo horse. No.
No, probably not.
No, but I don't know. It was a time of up and down, and I just stuck to a routine to make me feel like we're still in the normal, but also
Mm-hmm.
make him feel like we're still in the normal. And
Mm-hmm.
Rusty was a horse. There was a time when he was like really, really skinny, when I was like, oh, you got to stay in pasture, don't waste energy, blah, blah. He got really mad at me, actually. He was really upset. He got really angry. He bit people because he was
Oh
like,
no.
he was like, I want to do things. So I just kept going. I kept moving him. And I think because of that, and also he recovered, as you know, but he
Yeah.
recovered from his being skinny. We never found out what it was. And I just kept doing it because I had so much fun. And I kind of thought of him passing away someday. Like, there was a time when I would continuously just wait for it. Like, when is it going to be over? When is it going to be over? When is he going to die? Is today the last time I'm going to see him?
Wow.
But he was so healthy in the last years. Like, I had people not believing me how old he was. But still, I knew he was going to die at some point, but still was like, that's 4 more years ahead. Like,
Yeah.
so I don't know. And then 3 years ago, he had a colic. That was the first time I was really convinced he's going to die. He's not going to make it. And I was not okay with it. I really was not okay with letting him go or whatever. So I called my vet, and we had a vet team at night at the barn, and she did everything she could. And I randomly said to her, isn't there a hospital for horses where horses can go? She's like, sure, you can. We have like a horse clinic nearby.
Uh-huh.
She was like, yeah, sure, you can bring him there. It's safe. You can try. And he pulled through after 5 days in a clinic. He pulled through.
Wow.
And compared to what it was like now when he passed, I totally noticed the difference, that
Mhm.
I was really not okay with him passing back then, because I felt like it's not time, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I felt like there was still so much I could do to keep him alive if he wanted to, and he clearly wanted to. Like, when he had this colic, he was actually laying in my lap. He had his head in my lap, and he had his eyes closed, and he was like so given up, but not in a way of I want to die, more in a like I'm defeated way.
Mm-hmm.
And when we put him down this March, it was so different. It was so different. Like, so he had a seizure on a Friday, and my barn owner called me, and she was like, you gotta come, it's not looking good, he can't walk anymore. And I came there, and it was horrible to see. And I do have videos and photos of him moving, and I never posted those because it's just not nice to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent the whole Friday with him, and I sat with him and I talked to him, and I felt like he was okay. He was very tired. He was very well. He could still attack my youngster on two legs. Don't ask me how. Yeah, we put Rusty like in a single stall, and we put my youngster outside so he had some company, and he could still attack my youngster through the small fence we had built. And I don't know how.
He's a sensible man.
Yeah, but still, he gave me this vibe of like, let me go.
Yeah.
Let me go. And that Friday evening, I also had the vet again coming, giving painkillers because we weren't like sure it was a seizure. I also don't think it's the actual term, but it's the closest thing you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I remember I came home that Friday and I cried a lot.
No, I believe it.
But I was also like, I don't know, I was at peace. I was okay with it. And also there was a little hope inside of me, like, oh, maybe he's gonna pull through. And on the other hand, I was like, no.
There's no way. Yeah.
And one thing I really remember is I woke up the next morning, that was a Saturday, and so my bed is like right next to my window. And I woke up in the morning and I looked out of the window, still laying in my bed, and I was like, I had this thought in my head. And this thought was, today is a beautiful day to die. And I don't know why I had this thought in my head. Like, there was sun outside, we had a clear blue sky, and all I could think of was, it's a beautiful day to die. And then I got ready to drive back to the barn, and then I grabbed my scissors because I wanted to keep his tail. And I grabbed my scissors from my desk, and that was the moment when it really hit me. I just looked at the scissors in my hand, and I was like, this is getting real. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I'm tearing up a little bit.
It was these scissors in my hand. I don't know. They made it so real because my whole life I knew what it meant to take them to the horses. If you don't want to cut manes. Yeah. And then I packed everything up, and then my boyfriend actually joined me, who has nothing in common with horses. He's a great dog person, but yeah. And it was really, really nice. So he joined me to Rusty's barn. And, my mom was there. She was at the barn too. And I don't know, I arrived at the barn, and my youngster, Tim, he was standing outside, and Rusty was in his little shelter thingy. And actually, my youngster just laid down flat when I came. And I was like, thanks, bro. Wrong moment.
Interesting. Okay.
And I had a 5-minute cuddle session with my youngster laying flat in my lap. And then Rusty looked at me from his little shelter, and my mom said to me, you got to come over here. There's a very sad little old man over here. And then we had to wait for the vet, and my mom was like, you got to call the vet. It's not getting better. He has not slept. He has not laid down. And you got to call the vet. And I actually don't remember anymore if I called the vet or my mom did, because I was just functioning at that point. And then I sat down in his little shelter with my mom, and we listened to two songs from the musical Cats, the Memory song and the one Alto Hieronymus. I don't know what it is in English, but and then I also listened to the Mufasa song, because that's Forever and Always. I think it's Mufasa's Reflection, and the other version is called This Land. And these songs are forever, like, to me, Rusty songs. And I just sat there and listened to those songs, and I cuddled him, and I had my fair time to say goodbye. Also cried a lot again.
I bet.
But yeah, and then that came, and I had to take him out of the shelter, and then we had to move around the barn a little. So yeah, and then, well, they did the procedure how they euthanize a horse. And I'm sorry.
It's okay. Take your time. It's a really emotional story, and I appreciate you sharing that with me.
It was actually, I don't know if that's the right word to say, but it was actually really nice how he passed, because you would expect that, or what you sometimes hear or see is horses just fall down and then it looks all horrible, especially the bigger they are. But when they gave him like the injections and whatever they do there, he laid down like softly, like he didn't just fall, he was laying down like super softly. And then I sat next to him in the dirt and had his head in my lap, and I talked to him the whole time, and I told him that dying is just another adventure. I told him that the whole time. I think it's a movie quote from something, but yeah, I just told him that it's all gonna be all right, that I'm with him until everything is over, that he doesn't have to be scared. And I felt like he was not scared. Like, I know my horse. Like, I've known this horse for almost 28 years. I know what he was like when he was scared. And he wasn't scared. He was actually super calm, and I like pat his head the whole time. And the worst moment actually was when the vet said to me, well, she gave another injection, and then she said to me a couple minutes later, the whole process actually doesn't take that long. She said to me, he's gone now. And I could feel his very last breath, like they do this, they do that. I could feel that breath on my head, like this very last, like it's hard to describe this feeling, but it feels like the very, very last breath that comes out of him. And I told him, yeah, no, you made it. You made it.
Okay.
And in that moment, I screamed so loud. And I'm actually not a person that gets very loud or likes to show emotions in front of a lot of other people. But I just screamed so loud in that moment. I just had to scream away all my pain. And that really helped. It really helped. It I don't know. It just felt like the right thing to do. And it was funny, like in that moment, after everything was gone, after he was gone, after I screamed all my pain away, it sounds super cheesy, but the clouds kind of lifted and the sun came out completely again. And I felt like I was at peace somehow. Like of course I was broken in that moment, but also I felt like I made the right choice. I did everything in my power. I never abandoned him. He always had a perfect life. He went peacefully. He went not alone in the middle of the night or something. The funny thing is, what my barn owner also said, when Rusty passed, everybody that had a horse in the barn was there. Like randomly, they all decided to show up on a sunny Saturday. And everyone was there. Well, they gave me space, of course. They were in a different corner of the barn. But my barn owner said, yeah, that's typical this horse. Always needs an audience.
Going out with a bang.
Yeah. And it was okay. Like I don't remember a lot, and also I do remember a lot, but I don't know how to word all the feelings and what I
Oh, of
did during the whole
course.
process. I know I snapped at my mom. I'm sorry, mom. Um, but there was one moment when I really wanted to be left alone with Rusty, so I yelled at everyone to leave off.
Mhm.
Yeah, and after some time, the vet was like, so we got to take off the shoes now because Rusty had shoes in the front. And she was like, I don't want you to be around when we do that because
Yeah.
it's not really nice. Like they don't do it as nicely when the horse is still alive. Um, so my mom was just like, hey, do you want to walk around the property and try to find a little stone where we can put his name on or something?
Mhm.
That was a thing we did in the barn. We had
Yeah.
stones with all the horses' names on that have passed. And then I just walked around, and that was my dog. I'm sorry.
No, no, no worries.
uh, yeah, and I don't know. At some point, I was so tired, and I was okay to go back home, and it was okay. Of course, I
Well,
was still crying, and I was sad at home. But I also was not alone at home. So that helped.
mm,
There was sun in my face. I had to move.
yeah, no worries. I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was it for that.
Wow, that's a really such a personal story. Thank you for sharing that with me and um whoever ends up listening to this. But I really, even if it's just me, I really appreciate you sharing that with me because I have been very lucky in my lifetime and I've only lost a couple of animals and never one that was so intimately close to me. And I can't even that yeah, that was really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with me. Um
Also,
what
thank you
a,
for letting me share it. It's actually sometimes nice to talk about these things, even though they're sad. But I always feel like, or I always say that every emotion needs a stage.
I like
Um,
that.
so thank you for the stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, grief is hard. It's a messy emotion. Um it's a lingering emotion. I feel like so many emotions like, joy or whatever kind of have their moment, they burn and then we move on to the next one. But grief is one of those that weaves its way in and it shows up again and again and again. And um you can grieve someone or an animal for years, decades. I mean, I'm sure there'll be pieces of you that grieve Rusty for the rest of his life and celebrate your life and celebrate him and remember him with happiness, but that the impact of that is not to be scoffed at, I guess, for lack of a better word. um how have things been for you since it's only been a couple of months?
Um, Surprisingly good. Um, the thing is, like everybody who's friends with me in real life was or told me they were scared of the day Rusty passes.
Yeah.
Like they told me before, they told me after. I had one of my best friends, she lives in Belgium. She was actually like, I'm flying over tonight because you're gonna go crazy. Because everybody expected me to go nuts
Yeah.
after Rusty's passing, because everybody knew how much he meant to me. And nothing of that happened actually. Um, Maybe because due to a lot of factors, like 2 weeks before Rusty passed, I got my youngster, um, which was also kind of an unexpected decision, but it was the right place, right time, right horse.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. And you can feel
and
free to layer any of those stories in. Like we don't, it doesn't just have to be about, Rusty and stuff. Like I'm curious about all of it. So whatever you feel like sharing.
sure. So my young horse, Tim, or in his papers, his name is Taranis, which I've learned is the Celtic god of thunder.
Oh.
which is funny. Yeah, it's funny. He doesn't look like that at all. So
No.
he's Tim. Um, Tim is an English thoroughbred, and he was bred to be a racehorse. And he has never been to track though, because there were some things with his exterior and everything that they decided to give him a little more time to develop further. So they didn't put him on a racetrack, so they gave him back to the breeding facility. And at the breeding facility, a very, very good friend of mine works. And in November, she shot me a text and sent me a photo of this cute, a little wild looking horse. And she was like, this one is for sale too. And my answer in German was, what does this want to be? Like, what's it gonna be? What does he want to be? Like, she's like,
I like that. That's really good.
It makes more sense in German actually, but I basically asked, like, what is he gonna be? Like, what does he want to be? And she said, well, this is Taranis. He's a 2-year-old.
I didn't realize he was that young.
Yeah, he was 2. And I was like, oh, he's very pretty. And then we started already joking, like, aha, this is my horse, ha 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 ha. And then she asked how much he's gonna be. So she asked her boss how much he's gonna be. And that was a little too much out of my price range. So I was like, yeah, no, there's no way that I could afford or would want to pay this amount of money for a 2-year-old that knows nothing.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It was a lot. And then but my friend, she knew I was looking for a horse, but not actively. I was more like, maybe I should start looking for a horse, like maybe one day if Rusty's not around anymore, because I knew if I didn't have a horse when Rusty passes, I would never have gone back to the stables. That was absolutely clear to me. And then in January, my friend hit me up again, and she was like, remember that gelding from November? They dropped the price. You want him? Like, you have to decide now.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a situation. The breeder was not the owner. So the breeder was just selling, but the owner was in a private situation, and therefore the horses had to be sold. So yeah, I was like, so how much are they asking for? And then they told me how much they were asking for. I'm like, yep, I'm down. Give me that horse. And I don't know, everything happened within, I think, 48 hours.
Wow, that was a quick turnaround.
Yeah, I made a call to the breeder. I made a call to my family, and we discussed everything. I also sat down like the grown-up I am and looked at my numbers, if I could do it. And at the end, I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway.
That's my mentality.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and I was supposed, so I had that call on a Thursday, and I was supposed to pick him up that weekend then. But yeah, and the thing is, that horse lived in Frankfurt, which is like an 8-hour drive from Berlin.
Do you have a truck and trailer?
No, I don't even have a trailer license.
So you would have had to hire someone?
Well, I either would have had to hire someone, or my friend who works at the breeding stable, she has a license, and she was like, yeah, I can drive him. You come down here to Frankfurt, and then we drive up back to Berlin. Nice road trip. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Turned out my friend had COVID. So we had to postpone the whole thing by 2 weeks. And within these 2 weeks, I was terrified because I knew there were other people interested in that horse. And I was like, what if someone else? What if they sell it to someone else? No.
Oh no, that's so stressful.
It was insane. Also, given the fact I have seen that horse only in pictures.
Wow.
never, yeah, I know, I'm like batshit crazy. I bought a horse that I have only seen in pictures, and my friend like vouched for.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then 2 weeks later, I took a train, and that was actually a weekend where we had a big storm here in Europe, or like in Central Europe. Um, and like in Germany, like everything was shut down, no trains were running except for that one train company I took the train with. And then I went down to Frankfurt. Um, and yeah, next morning we drove back to Berlin and brought him back here to Berlin. Uh,
Wow.
it was very scary because we were like, there's a storm, but we were lucky. We were very, very lucky.
Wow, that's quite
Yeah,
the story.
yeah, and that's how he arrived. And then he had 2 weeks where he met Rusty, and I really, really love that they still got to know each other.
I was gonna
Uh,
mention that. That's really cool.
yeah, they did. Rusty hated him. Rusty was like, so Tim was in one pasture because he was separated and quarantined. And then I walked through with Rusty to that pasture, and Tim was like, oh, friend. And Rusty was like, peasant. Um, and one day that was the only situation where I went on a walk with both of them together. Rusty was like this big mean guy all the time. He would like bite him. He was very jealous. Rusty was this typical only child, and I think he had big only child syndrome. Yeah.
That's awesome. I like that. That's really funny.
Yeah, but still he was like, I sometimes caught them like standing with the fence in between them, and they just looked at each other. I always call it the Norwegian standoff. I don't know. I sometimes wonder what they talked about. Um, but I also, that's it. Maybe it sounds a little woo-woo, but that's something I truly believe in, that Rusty waited for something like this to happen.
He didn't want to
Like,
leave you alone.
I that's something I believe in, and I take it when people call me crazy for that, but that's what I believe in that he could make his peace with his life once he knew I was in good hands. Both. Because I also had, for like 5 years, I had this Haflinger mare, but I didn't own her. I was just like
I
taking
remember
care of
her.
her. Yeah, Nikita.
Yeah, she's cute.
She was cute, but I never really bonded with her. Like, I loved her. I loved her dearly. She was a very nice horse. She was a good girl. But I never loved her from the bottom of my heart. I just couldn't connect with her. And with Tim, the moment I first saw him like in real life, he had my heart. I knew this was my horse. I loved him from that moment. And yeah.
That's beautiful. I'm right there with you. I fully think that animals make space, or like that Rusty was kind of waiting and saying, okay, my girl's taken care of, like I can be peaceful now. I'm totally on board with that idea. Everything I've ever seen of animals, I think that makes perfect sense, and that's absolutely something that plays into it, consciously or not. Wow, those are beautiful stories. But yeah, so what's been, I think you've already kind of explained this, but obviously having Tim has been a really big deal for you, but what else has kind of helped you to process and move through the grief?
I've been through a big grief in my life before. So when I was 21, my youngest sister passed away in an accident. So I kind of like, I went to therapy after. I've been in therapy for like 6 years. And I have, well, I had a great therapist, and he gave me the right tools to reflect and to work myself through grief and all stages of grief. And great person. I'm so grateful for him, because I wouldn't be that person I am today without his help. Um, so that really helped me to deal with Rusty's passing, that I had these tools and I could recognize emotions, behaviors,
Mhm.
patterns. Um, what also helped me was that I could talk. Like I could talk to my friends, I could talk to my mom. Like I remember I don't know how many times I called my mom, just randomly calling her ugly, crying like, I miss my pony so much. I miss him so much. And she was like, yeah, but I can't help you with that. What do you want me to say? I'm like, nothing. I just want to cry. She was like,
Yeah.
okay, okay, you can cry. It's fine. It's gonna be all right. And she was not trying to make me feel better. She would just let me cry my heart out.
Hmm.
Um, and when she kind of sensed that I was ready to talk, we would talk about what a great life Rusty had, and that it was time for him to pass, and that he went pain-free, and so on and so on. Um, and my mom would always point at Tim and say, "Look, there's your future." Um, so that was nice to like have the support from friends, my mom. Um,
Hmm.
Also, I must say the Instagram community really helped, because it really touched me how many lives Rusty has touched. Like I had a girl messaging me that told me that she named her youngster after Rusty,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, um, like there were a lot of beautiful stories. People started sharing with me that I don't know, like they told their families at dinner tables about my horse somewhere in Australia or in California, or
Yeah.
I'm like, man, my little pony.
That's so
Um,
cool though. What a
that's
neat,
super cool.
yeah.
Yeah. So that really helped, and I think also I didn't really look for help. Like something that also helped me was actually not working on it. I took some days off work, and I just didn't do anything. Like I sat at home, I cried, I didn't go to the gym. I was just like, I don't wanna be at the moment.
Hmm.
Um, so I gave all my emotions the room they needed, and I allowed myself to cry in public.
Good for you.
I was just like, I'm just gonna sit here and cry now. I don't care. It needs to go out. Um, and actually, that was that really helped. Like,
Hmm.
if you stop thinking about what others could think about you right now, and just give your emotions room, because all feelings are valid. All feelings need to be heard, in my opinion. Um, it helps. It helps instead of pushing them down, waiting until you're home. Um,
Yeah. No, absolutely. That makes perfect sense to me. I think it's beautiful that you gave yourself that grace and that time to just hold the emotion and exist in it and not try to like squash it down or whatever.
yeah. I also didn't try to be better. I was like, okay, I'm miserable today. I might be still be miserable tomorrow. That's all right. Because when
Mhm.
my sister passed, everybody was expecting me to get better. Like, um, you gotta get better. You gotta be better after a month, after 2 months, after a year, blah blah blah
Mhm.
blah. And I find that so not okay to expect someone to be okay after a loss, whatever you want to call it, or whoever passed. Like a loss is a loss, and a loss should never be compared.
Oh,
um
absolutely.
and like someone's loss of their pet bird is equally bad as someone's mother, father, brother passing. Like
Yeah.
nobody has the right to judge someone's loss. That's how I feel. And it's a lesson I have learned, that people expected me to get over it. I remember I had teachers telling me, oh, You should be over it by now. Like, your sister has been dead for a year now. Why aren't you over it?
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. And I kind of fell back into that pattern when Rusty passed, that I felt ashamed to tell people that my horses passed. But on the other hand, when I told people, they were like, "Oh, I can relate. That's okay. It's not just a horse. He was your friend. He was your
Yeah,
best friend. It doesn't matter if he was a horse or a human."
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so that's also something I always keep telling people, like, don't expect yourself to be back in good mental health shape by tomorrow.
Mhm.
Because the more you try, the less it's gonna work.
Mm.
Um,
No, absolutely. I think that makes perfect sense, and I really applaud you, and I'm like trying to really internalize this lesson because I think that's so valuable and important, and I have a lot of respect for you for walking in that respect, because I think that's really cool that you're able to have the mentality. Also, I'm so sorry those people said that about your sister. That's like that just makes me so angry. But that's, that anyway. Um, hmm. There's a lot to unpack there.
yeah, grief is a big topic. It's like, sometimes when people ask me, like, how do I deal with grief, I like, my first answer is like, not at all.
I don't deal.
Don't deal. Like, just take it in
Hmm.
and see where it takes you. Of course, um, you should always let others check in with you.
Hmm.
Like, I've also been there, that I found this super deep, dark black hole of very, very dark
Hmm.
thoughts. Um, and I don't know, it is nice to have someone snapping you out of this, because it's just this vicious cycle of dark thoughts, and it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse.
Hmm.
That is the point where I say, maybe get some help. Um, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That the breaking that cycle can be really powerful. Sometimes we don't even realize we're in it until someone on the outside can call us and say, "Hey, this is a problem. You need to not walk away from it, but be a little more self-aware," or whatever it is.
Mm, mm.
The risk of being like a perpetual Eeyore. And that's a hard balance to find, of like honoring the emotion, holding space for it, and still moving forward and living our lives, and not getting stuck in those spots.
It's also super scary, actually, to hold that space, because of course, like, when you're sad or like grieving or whatever, you're trying to distract yourself. Like you don't want to be in that dark place. Like, you don't
Mhm.
want to sit at home crying your heart out. You don't want to be miserable. Like,
Mhm.
I think most of us don't want to be miserable. um and it's scary. Like, I've had that too, like, where I sat at home and I tried to distract myself with, I don't know, all kinds of things. And I picked up the guitar again, for example, and then I figured, I'm just getting frustrated because I'm not really paying attention to distracting myself. Um,
Interesting.
and then I just sat there. I'm like, okay, let's turn on some music and cry your heart out, because maybe that's what you need right now. Um, and then I did that. And then, I don't know, I cried for like 10, 20 minutes. And then I'm tired, and maybe I fall asleep, or I feel like that's with me. Like, I always feel very relieved after I cry.
Mhm.
I'm a person that cries a lot. Um,
Right there with you.
it's like, I don't know. I even cry when I'm happy. Like, I
Mm.
cry all the time. Um, but it helps me. I once read something that, I don't know, I can't quote it anymore, but it was like, um, crying is basically just a reaction to when your emotions don't have space in your body anymore.
Mm. I like that. I like that a lot. That makes, at least for me, that's how I feel. I'm someone who struggles with any kind of big emotion, even if it's like being too happy. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's scary. And, um, so I can relate to that idea quite a bit.
Yeah, but also I can't let that sit like that. There is no too happy.
Yeah.
Like you are perfectly happy the way you are, and I personally find it so amazing when people are like genuinely super excited and happy, and like, I don't know, you give them a flower or a cotton candy and they celebrate it as if it was their wedding day or something. I don't
Hmm.
know. I live for that shit and I love it. So I wish there were more people like you like that.
Yeah, I guess I should clarify that. I guess what I mean is, like big strong emotions, like I have a big reaction to them. Like if I have like I got engaged last fall, and then I cried for like a week, thank you, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed by all this happiness. Stuff like that, where it's like everything's great and now I'm crying and I don't know why. um but yeah, so I think the way emotions move through our body is so individual, but also, like, I think you and it sounds like we process emotions pretty similarly. And so it's neat when you can find people who understand that and can move through it with you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I also get that you cried for a week, like, and also didn't know why. Like, I had that the other day. I had a work party, and there's also a lot going on right now in my personal life that's about to change.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I just started crying. I went to the bathroom and I don't know why. I just cried. I couldn't even I couldn't even say if I was sad or I don't know. I just sat in my work's bathroom and cried like for 10 minutes, and then I looked at myself in the mirror. I'm like, okay, now we're going back to the party, and then we cry in another hour. And
Good for
I still
you.
don't know why. I still really don't know why. But luckily I have very supportive friends and a supportive partner who's like, um, if you want to cry, you can cry. If you want to talk about it, you can talk about it. It's fine. So in my personal space, there is a lot of space for my crying, which is great.
I'm glad to hear that. That's good. You deserve that.
So do you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's always a work in progress. But yeah, I figure if the worst thing I do is cry, I'm probably doing all right.
Oh
um
wow.
let's see, I don't want to focus entirely on like the past, and as wonderful as it is to honor Rusty's memory, because I mean, even for me, I met you once in person and that was super cool. I'm following you for several years. um yeah, Rusty and I mean, all of you, like all of your animals, it's fun to get to follow someone for years and see the growth and the progression, and um, the impact that they have, even kind of subconsciously on your life. Like whenever I see a Ford now, like in my mind, I always think of Rusty, because I'm like, he was one of the first Fords that I really knew on, like saw online, and they're not common at all in my neck of the woods. So every once in a while I'll see one, I'll be like, oh, looks like Rusty. He's kind of the caricature of one in my mind. Um, where was I going with this? Oh, but I'm curious, like what it looks like going forward for you. Like, what are your plans for Tim? What are you doing? At least as far as horsemanship is concerned, is it just kind of a day by day thing, or do you have more long-term goals?
Well, it was like once Rusty was gone, like I had some ideas what I wanted to do with Tim when I got him.
Mhm.
Um, like the most important thing of me is I would still do my horsemanship, and the way I would keep the way I treated Rusty. And I always said Tim is gonna have the exact same luxurious, loved life as Rusty had. And to me, it's actually a beautiful thought to me that Tim is 3 years now.
Mhm.
Um, he has his whole life ahead,
Mhm.
and it makes me feel so excited to know he's gonna spend his whole life with me. He's gonna have a whole life of love, of fun, of well, we will also have our arguments. I'm very sure about that.
Mhm.
Um, but it makes me feel so excited to know that this young horse has found his forever place. So
Yeah, that's a
and
beautiful gift. I mean, I wish every horse was that lucky.
yeah, thanks. So that's my main priority on being with Tim. Like everything I do with him, of course, I do have to teach him some manners sometimes. Tim is absolutely not like Rusty, not at all. Tim is, imagine this 4 years old toddler that speak like this. Like, mommy, can I have a candy snack? Like that. He's like that. He has that attitude. Tim is he's very smart, but sometimes I'm like, you're not the sharpest tool in the shed, right? It's funny. He's incredibly funny. He's very, very cuddly. He's a very mom child. Like 2 days ago, I mucked the pasture like for 2 hours, and he would like follow me the 2 hours all the time.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah, he's great. He's very social still with the other horses. He's very kind. And he's like, his whole presence is still so much like, I'm a kid, I'm a baby. And Rusty was more like this. I don't know if I would like that. Let's talk over a cookie, but the answer is no. Rusty was more like you had to sell everything to him as if it was his idea. Otherwise, he would just leave you. And I mean that like literally. That horse has left me so many times. Like, I can't count the times I stood alone in the woods because he was like, bye.
Oh no.
Yeah, but our forest was like right next to the barn. There is no street, so that's
okay. Well, that's good at least.
Yeah. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done that. But same in the arena, when I wanted to work with Rusty, he was just like, no, I'm not having it. This is boring. Bye. And Tim is like, great, give me more of those combs. And that's what I try to what I try to keep between us. Like, I want to keep everything fun. Like, I ride him once a week, but I just go on hacks with him, on like light hacks, like maximum 45 minutes. Because I want him to get to know the world. I want him to be bomb-proof. I want him to figure out the world on his own. The other day, he was scared of a trash bin, and then he put his head into it.
Love that attitude. That's great.
He's very brave. Like, first he's like, I don't know, I'm scared, but he doesn't lose his head. He's just like, I'm scared. Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure we should go there? And I'm like, yes. He's like, okay, fine.
And then he sticks his head in it.
And then he just does it, and then he's like, oh, we did it.
That was exhausting.
No, he's great. And I don't know, like, I don't expect much from him. Like, yeah, he taught me like a lot in terms of, like, in the very beginning, I would expect things from him the way I did with Rusty. Like, even like simple thing, you open a gate and then you turn your horse, right, to close the gate again. And I did that with Tim, and he wouldn't turn. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Yeah. And my mom was like, yeah, he doesn't know, like, he knows how to turn, but he doesn't know your signals.
Right.
So
yeah.
How is he supposed to know? Or picking hooves. I think a lot of people who have young horses will recognize this behavior. Picking hooves, he would like sometimes be like, no, I'm tired. I'm just falling down right now. Like,
they lay on you. It's great.
And I was like, why is he doing that? And I was like, am I doing something wrong? I totally lost my mind. And my mom was just like, he's a young horse. He's just going through all phases, and you can't expect him to know everything. Like, you have to teach him everything. I had to teach him how to park. I had to teach him how to go into like those wash boxes. I had to teach him so many things, but on the other hand, he makes it so easy to teach these things because he's so creative. He comes up with a lot of funny things. The first thing I taught him when I had him a week was walking backwards towards me because he liked his butt scratched.
That's great. I love it.
Or after 2 weeks, he could lay down on command.
That's
and
impressive.
I don't know how I did it. He did it, and I positively reinforced it. And then he was like, "Cool story.
Let's do more."
Let's do more." And the other day, like 2 or 3 days ago, I taught him how to pick up his bucket and bring it to me. And that happened because he was bored, where I brushed him. And then he started playing with his bucket, and I'm like, "That's a cool idea, bro." So he makes it so easy. He comes up with a lot of things, and he's so, I don't know, he's the perfect horse you can click a train or work with positive reinforcement.
That's awesome. I love knowing that you have this fun project to move forward with and carry on the legacy with. That's really cool.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I'm freaking out all the time. Like, I'm like, oh, he has to know this, he has to learn that. The other day I called my friend and I was like, oh, I'm so tired to go to the horses. It takes me an hour to go there. And I asked my friend, like, man, I should go and do something with him. He should learn this and that. She was like, he's 3.
Yeah, you got lots of time.
He's got all the time. If you don't go today because you don't feel fit enough, go next day. And these are the things that really freak me out, especially when I see horses on Instagram or Instagrammers doing crazy things with their horses. I'm like, okay, I gotta make a list of all the things Tim's gotta learn. And then I totally freak out, and I'm like, 2 days later I throw away all these plans, and I'm like, okay, it's fine.
That's a ton of pressure. Absolutely.
Absolute. And so he's been ridden, but not, well, he can walk. He can walk, trot, and canter. That's basically it.
Hey, that's awesome. That's a great foundation.
Exactly. But so you can't really ride him in an arena. Well, you could, but he struggles with that, and I don't want that because I think he's too young to be ridden seriously in an arena.
Yeah, for sure.
And I want him to enjoy it, and I right now don't feel like he would enjoy that. But I still feel like, maybe I should start doing that. Maybe I should start working more like that, or more seriously with him, less playtime. I don't know. There's so much going on in my head because it's the first time I have a young horse, and I'm so scared of ruining him because he has fantastic gaits. He has a great character. He would make a great sports horse. And I'm just so scared of ruining this perfect horse.
Oh, absolutely. I understand the pressure for sure.
One day I even thought of selling him because that was the only time I rode in an arena. And you also got to bear in mind that I haven't like probably ridden a horse in like 6 years. And then I filmed myself riding, and I was like, oh no, I am so not capable of riding. And I came home and I was crying, and everything, it was a day where everything went wrong. And I was like, I gotta sell him. I gotta sell this horse. I'm not good enough for this horse. He needs a capable rider. And all my friends and family were like, you're not gonna sell that horse. We all know that. So cheer up. Stop being whiny.
You got good friends.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the one time where I felt like I should sell Tim. But that's not gonna happen. He's not for sale. Please, nobody message me about selling him. No, and like my dream, what I want to do with him is I actually, maybe I just do it once, but I want to do cross country with him.
Oh, nice.
But not this insane cross country what you see in the media. I just want to do like the little jumpy jumps. And but the thing is, Tim is scared of poles.
Oh no.
We have blue poles in our arena, and he's like, nope, I'm not having it. So I think we're not gonna make it. But
You never
it's
know.
fun.
A lot can change.
No, maybe. Or maybe after one round of being the cross country, I'm like, nope, this is scary. I don't want to do it.
It looks so intense.
Right? And I mean, I come from a show jumping background. So we'll see. But if he doesn't want to be a jumper, I don't know. There's also working equitation. There's so much. And if he doesn't like any of these, then he can also be my pasture buddy pet or trick training pony. He can be whatever he wants to be. So
that's great. I love that mentality. That's awesome.
Yeah, like it's basically what I said when I saw the photo of him. Like, what does he want to become? Like, what does he want to be at some day? And now I'm like, well, you can be whatever you want. Like, you can be a cart pony. Like, that's something I actually want to do. I want to cart train him.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Don't see many thoroughbreds doing that.
Yeah, and I long ride him, like I did with Rusty. And he's super chill with it. So, and he's not a typical thoroughbred. He's the slowest thoroughbred I have ever met in my life. He's like, you asked me to run? Like, can we do that and walk? I don't know.
That's good. I like that. That's important.
He's great. He's really not up for runs. So, in the pasture he is, but not with me on him. Let's wait for puberty. No, but really, he lives a great life right now. He's in a herd with 7 other geldings. They live outside 24/7.
That's
they
awesome.
have, oh my god, they have like 4 pastures, and they are huge. They have a forest to themselves.
Wow.
So he just lives his life, and sometimes I come visit, and then we do something fun, and that's all right. And after Rusty's passing, I also switched barns for many reasons, but one of the main reasons was that I had in my old barn, I had Rusty there for like, I think 15 years.
Wow.
So I knew every stone. I knew every grass, bush. I knew everything by heart. And everywhere I would go, I would see Rusty. And I remember that when I walked around the property, I would start to compare Tim with Rusty. Like, oh, Rusty did this here, Rusty did this there, Rusty would do this here, blah, 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 blah. And then I expected Tim to do the same, which was absolutely toxic, because I put an expectation on a young horse that I just knew for like 2 weeks at that point, or for 3 weeks. So I decided to move Tim like a little further away, to this new barn where my mom also has her horse. She also has a fjord. And my mom's concern was that her fjord horse would remind me of Rusty, but they're so different also in looks. He doesn't remind me of Rusty at all. But it was really, I think, a wise decision to move Tim to this new herd and this new property. And I feel so much better in this new property because I also could start over. I could be the grown-up with her horse, because in my old barn they knew me since childhood, and I was always, well, the little girl with her pony has always been here, and they would treat me like that. And
yeah, for sure.
yeah, in my new barn, I'm a grown-up who pays for her stable rent, who takes care of her horse, and that's it.
That's cool. That's interesting that I didn't think about that, but absolutely that the physical property would remind you of him and that you gave yourself permission to move on. That not in a way like of forgetting Rusty, but of going in a new direction with you and Tim. I think that's really commendable.
Well, it's not really about forgetting Rusty. It's more like closing a chapter, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like you mentioned the picture that is behind me on my wall. That is the only picture I have left in my apartment. Like one day I felt like I had like 5 pictures and paintings I got from Instagram. I had them all in my apartment. And one day I just felt like I couldn't see them anymore. Like I had to take them down.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a box with all of Rusty's belongings and his shoes and his hair and everything. And it sounds so mean when I say that right now, but I replaced his pictures with pictures of Tim.
Mm-hmm.
And like right next to me here to my left, you can't see it right now, is a picture of Tim. I can show you as a baby.
He's so cute. He's gotten really light. My goodness.
Yeah, they didn't know he was a gray when he was born. They just guessed it. They weren't sure.
That's wild. No, I don't think anyone could accuse you of forgetting Rusty. I just mean it's cool that you're able to give yourself that permission to keep moving and to not stay in this one box, but to expand and grow.
Yeah, it's something. Maybe that's something I've learned from my sister's passing. I still can't say that I have accepted my sister's passing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fact that it's there and that my rational me knows of.
Mm-hmm.
But emotionally, I wouldn't say 100% I have processed it. And
of course.
And it's something that held me back for a long, long time, and which has made, well, I was 21 when my sister passed, and within one night I was 20 years older, so I had to grow up within one night, basically.
Absolutely.
And
that's a loss that some people never experience.
exactly. And I still sometimes feel like it sounds so cheesy, but a part of my youth was stolen that night because I had to grow up within one night. Even though nobody expected it of me. Like my mom didn't, like nobody expected me to be the grown-up now, but I somehow just did. And I still look at it with a little bit of sadness that I feel like other people that age went to party and had, I don't know, so much fun, like what you do between 21 and 27 or something. And I went on parties too, but I never lived like a carefree life because I always would carry that burden with me. And that's something I have learned from, so I could deal with Rusty's passing now, which is also why what I said earlier, I would just feel and cry, because when my sister passed, like I think I didn't cry for 2 years.
Wow, that's incredible. Not incredible good, but like shocking.
Yeah. And I never, well, of course I had my moments where I was sad or cried, but I never really went to this process of actual grieving when it comes to my sister. And I don't know, with Rusty's passing, I think I grieve by the books.
It sounds like it's doing more good for you this time around.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes I do look at his photos and videos, and especially in the first weeks, I looked at them and I still remember how he felt under my hand, what it would feel like when I put my hand on his forehead, or what his winter coat would feel like when I just went through it with my fingers, or what braiding his tail felt like. It's like a muscle memory. But I don't know, the first times it made me ugly cry. And I sometimes would force it. Like I would look at the videos to make myself cry because I felt like I want to cry now, so I'm looking at photos. Um, and now it's not really photos for me anymore, but now it's videos. And I am so glad that I have 5 hard drives of, I think I have 70,000 videos of that horse.
You can make a whole movie.
Well, some of them are 20 times him grazing in the same position. So we all know there's videos in our camera rolls, right? Look at my horse, he's grazing. Look at my horse, he's grazing here again. But he has his eyes open here, look. Would you delete them? No, absolutely not.
No, because then now look how precious they are for you.
Definitely. So that's an advice I can give. Delete them after you take them. Like really look at your photos and be like, okay, I have my horse 20 times and he looks 20 times the same. You can absolutely delete 19 of these photos, because after your horse has passed, you won't delete anything anymore. Anything. Yeah. So I mean, if you have enough hard drives, that's fine. But
yeah. That's a good. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do that with Tim now, actually. Like I take 20 photos of him and I keep the best. And I'm like, okay, I have a very good photo of him of that moment. And my iCloud is not spammed with tons of photos I won't look at ever again. But yeah, I'm so glad I took videos. And that's also an advice I would always give to people when they ask me like my horse's health is going down, like what should I do, except for everything you should do for the horse. I would always say take videos take videos of your horse neighing, because sound is the first thing we forget. It is. I actually read something about that the first thing we forget about a person is their voice. And I don't have videos of my sister speaking. Like I would recognize her voice, but I can't play her voice in my head anymore. And with Rusty, I have tons of videos where he's neighing at other horses, and sometimes I just look at them and I listen to them and I'm like, he's still here somehow. I don't know. I can't explain it psychologically, but
that's beautiful. That's really I love I just that's wonderful. Oh, that was loud. I think it's really cool that you have those and are able to process them and use those to help yourself. That's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I know we've been talking for a while and I don't want to eat up your whole night because it's probably getting kind of late for you. But I super duper appreciate you sharing all of this with me. I know it's a very vulnerable topic, but it's meant a lot to me to hear how you're processing and dealing with all of this. And you know, knock on wood, my boy's only 6, but someday I'll be there as well. And it's encouraging to hear that how someone else is dealing with it with so much grace and joy, because you can just hear the joy in your voice when you talk about him and the love, and that overshadows the sadness. And I think that's beautiful. Not that the sadness is invalid, but just that the core of your memory is happiness and love. And that's really cool.
Thank you so much for having me. It's when you messaged me like, hey, can we talk about this? I was like, oh, I'm gonna be on a podcast. Also about a topic that's really close to my heart. Like, mental health is like one of my most important topics.
You do a great job sharing about it. I always really resonate with your posts. They're very meaningful. If anyone's not following Cara, I really recommend it.
Thank you. But something I also just wanted to add to what you just said, that your boy is just 6 years old. Like something I have witnessed with friends and other people, when their horses passed at some point, they were not ready for it. And I think there's never an actual ready for it. But something my mom has taught me was think of the day your horse is gonna pass. Like, really sit down, think of what's gonna happen,
Mhm.
and make a plan. And that's what I did. I communicated to my friends like some ground rules. Like, I communicated that I want to have pictures taken. I want to be left alone. Like, don't come close to me. Don't talk to me. And I assigned someone to cut off Rusty's tail hair. Like, I made these ground rules like 3 years ago or something. I said to my mom and my best friend, like, these are the ground rules. That's what's gonna happen when he passes. This is what you gotta follow. This is the protocol, because I won't be able to do that.
That's cool. Yeah, that was very,
And
yeah.
yeah, like, that's something you, like, I always say, like, one should do, like, find yourself like someone who helps you through the situation, like either your best friend, your partner, your family, whoever is trusted and close to you. Like, for me, it was also, I had this chat group with my closest friends where I would keep them updated about everything that was going on. And then my best friend, I told her in the morning what was going to happen, and she was like, she took over for me. She was like, shall I text the group? And I'm like, yes, please do, because I was not, I
Yeah.
couldn't type the words. And then she took over the communication, because, well, most of my friends live in Norway, and they were sitting on their phones, like, they didn't know what was happening. They wanted to be there for me,
Right.
but they didn't know how. So my best friend, she was kind of like telling them what to do and what's happening right now.
Mhm.
So that helped everyone, so they knew what to do when.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe that's a little story I can share. The last story, I promise.
No, no, it's fine. I appreciate it.
That exact group. It's one girl in Germany, one girl in Belgium, and I think 4 or 5 in Norway. They all kind of went I say that in the most loving way. They went behind my back. Like, after Rusty passed, there is, I think a lot of us know that brand, which I'm not going to mention by name right now, but the riding skirt brand from Norway. And they knew that I always wanted to have one. But I'm a very, like, cheap person. I don't like to spend money on things that I actually don't need. And they all went behind my back and got me a skirt together.
Aw.
And then they sent it to my home address, and I was not knowing anything. I was just like, why is everything telling me to go to customs? Like, what is going on? I don't know. And it was so cute. They all wrote me a card together. I don't know how they did that. If they sent the card around or something. And they all chipped in for the skirt. And they got me my favorite riding skirt in my favorite color as a little feel better soon gift.
Aw.
And it's not the gift itself that made me so happy. Of course, it made me happy, but what made me feel so happy was the feeling of being loved. That so many people got together. They wrote me a beautiful card, and I felt so loved.
That's beautiful. How cool.
Yeah, that was really nice.
That's awesome. I'm really glad that you have that support system cheering you on and loving on you. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I didn't expect it, because I am a person, I always deal with my problems myself.
Mhm.
That's why I'm saying, like, when it comes to preparing yourself for your horse's passing, and your horse doesn't have to be old to pass away. Like, I have a friend whose horse was young and passed away.
Mhm.
Um, it can happen every time. Of course, you should not sit at home and be anxiously waiting, like, is it going to happen today? Is it going to happen today? While your horse is perfectly fine and healthy.
Right.
But that's why I'm saying you should always have like an emergency plan of if it's going to happen, who's your person of contact, who's going to take care of you, who's going to take care of your needs. For example, if your horse passes away in a cold winter night, is there someone bringing you a blanket? Is there someone who brings you a warm tea so you don't freeze to whatever? So create a support system, create an emergency plan, and talk to your friends, family about why you want this, why this is important to you. Because if they don't understand why it is important to you to bring scissors, they will forget the scissors. So yeah.
Full circle. Yeah. Well, that definitely gives me a lot to think about. But you're right, it's important. You never know what's going to happen. And, you know, God forbid we do everything in our power to keep them safe and in their little happy bubble. But the reality of it is that's not reality. And so I think you're right. Being prepared and knowing what's going to happen is definitely better. It's definitely preferable.
Yeah, I mean, we do that with so many things, with life insurances and whatever for ourselves. Like, I legally co-own another horse, a friend's horse, just for the safety reasons. If something happens to her, this horse goes to me. Like, I have no say in what she does with that horse. It's just on the paper. But I legally own actually 2 horses.
Yeah.
Yeah, for safety reasons. Yeah. So
I get it. I was recently in an accident. That's a whole other story. But I had a moment of panic of being like, there's nothing in place for my horse. Like, he goes to my fiance essentially, and he's not a horse person, and like, he doesn't want anything to do with him. And yeah, so that's something that I have to take care of soon, to ensure that he goes to a good home. And yeah, it's our responsibility to make sure that they're taken care of no matter what, and then that we're taken care of.
Exactly. Like you just mentioning it, like looking at you, I totally forgot you had this accident because you look so fresh and healthy and jumpy.
Yeah, doing really well now, but yeah,
I'm so glad I saw the pictures of that accident. I was like, oh,
yeah, that's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing. Yeah. Oh man, I'm so glad you recovered and
Thank you.
everything is good and everyone is where they are. The horse is still there. The fiance is still there. You're still there. Great.
Yep, we're holding steady. That's the goal for the rest of the year. Is just no more chaos.
And maybe then improve from there a little, but holding steady for now.
Just for now, just like consistency would be great. Yeah.
I know. I want the same.
I feel you. I really feel you. Well, if anyone, I know you mentioned at the beginning, but if anyone wants to go give you a follow, where can they find you online?
Well, I am only on Instagram because I don't do TikTok. But
I don't do TikTok either. It's okay.
I don't get it. I really don't understand TikTok.
I don't either. Yeah. So where can they find you?
Oh, well, just on Instagram, type in WhoIsCara with a C, and in one word, like who is Cara. And then you can think about who actually is Cara, but that's a whole different story.
Well, maybe we'll do a part 2.
Maybe we do a part 2, but then I don't know. I have to get in the mood for that.
Okay, sounds good.
It sounds like a beer pong story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for jumping on. I really appreciate it. It was great talking with you. I feel like we have a lot in common. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for joining me on the Equine Blooming podcast. As always, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Equine Blooming, and please don't forget to leave a review if this resonated with you. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you have a beautiful week. Bye now.